Hi everyone, welcome to part 2 of lesson 4.1 exponential functions. We're going to look at some applications of exponential functions involving interest rates. So the first formula I have for you is the compound interest formula, and that is A equals P times 1 plus R over N to the NT. The A is the total amount you'll have after that time period. The P is the principal, that's the starting amount of money you had. The R is the annual rate of interest, and that's as a decimal, so you take whatever percentage they gave you, change it to a decimal, and put it right here where R is. And then N is the number of compounding periods in a year. So if they say it's compounded monthly, well, there are 12 months in a year, so N would be 12. If it's compounded daily, there are 365 days in a year, so N would be 365. Okay, so that's how often it's compounding per year. And then T is how long it's been in that bank account or how long it's been compounding. Okay, and that is usually given in years because we're talking about annual, so it has to be per year. So if they give you something that's 6 months, well, that's half a year. So T would be 1/2. Okay, so let's look at a word problem that will help us apply this formula. In example 5, it says a sum of $1,000 is invested at an interest rate of 12% per year. Find the amounts in the account after 3 years if interest is compounded annually, semi-annually, quarterly, monthly, and daily. Okay, so they actually want us to calculate it multiple times. One for here, one for this, one for this, one for this, and one for this. So there are actually 6 separate answers, 6 separate calculations I need to do. So the first thing I'm going to do is figure out where all of this belongs in my formula. $1,000 is our starting amount, so that's the P. This is our interest rate of 12%, so R is 0.12. And we have 3 years, so that's T. And now for the N value, we're going to start with annually. So that's 1 time per year. So in this case, N is 1. So let me show you my calculations and my final answer. So I did 1,000 times 1 plus 0.12 over 1 to the 1 times 3. Now, I do highly recommend doing a few of these easier calculations before typing it into a calculator. Like 1 times 3 is just 3, so make the exponent 3. 0.12 divided by 1 is just 0.12. So if you can do the calculations, I would definitely do them because a lot of times people make mistakes when they type them in. So I got 1,404.93. Let me show you how I typed that in. I had 1,000 times 1 plus 0.12 divided by 1, close the parentheses, and then it's to the, and you can do 3 times 1 if you wanted to, and I can just type in, and if you didn't get this exponent up here and you had it down here with just the up arrow, that means you need parentheses, 3 times 1. If it does go to the exponent, you don't necessarily need to put those parentheses. And there is my answer, 1,404.93, which is what I had here. So we'll do another one together, and then the rest of them I'm going to encourage you to do on your own. So semi-annually, that means twice a year. Okay, so these ones are going to change to 2 in my formula, and I'm going to just do that again in my calculator. So if I want to bring up this previous entry, I can either hit the up arrows to get it, or I can just hit second and enter, and that will bring up my previous entry. All those ones will change to 2 for semi-annually, twice a year. By the way, quarterly would be 4 times a year because there are 4 quarters in a dollar. So quarterly would be 4 times a year. Okay, and I got 1,418.52. We always round this for money because we're talking about money. So you always round to the hundredths place with this. So that's my answer, and here is my work. So I had 1,001 plus 0.12 over 2 to the 2 times 3, which is this. Now I'm going to encourage you to do the next 3, pause the video, do the next 3, and then press play, and I'll just uncover my work so you can see all of those answers. For quarterly, n changed to 4, and I ended up with 1,425.76. For monthly, n changed to 12, and I ended up with 1,430.77. And for daily, n is 365, and that's 1,433.24. If you had trouble with any of those calculations, make sure you ask me, because chances are you have your equation right, and you're just having trouble with how to type it in your calculator. Make sure you ask me. We have one last application of interest. So let's look at annual percentage yield. Annual percentage yield is the simple interest rate that yields the same amount as a compound interest at the end of the year. So if you're comparing rates, if you're comparing interest in two different banks or whatever, you can use this to figure out if one bank's simple interest is going to be equal or less than or greater than the compound interest rate for a different bank. Okay, so you have to remember the simple interest formula, the total amount. Now, normally we do I equals PRT, but if I want the total amount, all I do is I add on this 1 plus the rate here. And of course, the rate is as a decimal. Okay, so the total amount using simple interest is the principal times 1 plus the rate times the time it's in that account. And we're just going to create an equation because it's when the simple interest is the same as the compound interest. So we're just going to create an equation. Here's my compound interest formula. Here's my simple interest formula. So I just made them equal. Now remember, this is annual, so time is always 1. It's 1 year. So I'm going to put in the 1 here. And then remember, we're always starting with the same amount of money, so the principals should be equal. So basically I could divide on both sides by P. They're not going to affect my formula. So basically anytime they ask for APY, I can just use this formula down here. And remember, 1 times anything is just that anything. So technically these two 1s right here don't make a difference. So it's 1 over R over N to the N equals 1 plus R. And that's what I have. So let's take a look at an example and see how you do with it. In my example, it says find the annual percentage yield for an investment that earns interest at a rate of 6% per year, compounded daily. So we're going to start out with creating our equation. My compound interest formula equals 1 plus R, and R is going to be the variable we're solving for. So try and put this into your compound interest formula. Remember, time is 1 because it's annual percentage yield. 1 year, annual. So try and put that in and then see if you get the same thing I did. This is what I got. I got 1 plus the rate, which is 0.06, over 365 because it's compounded daily. And it's to the 365 times 1 because time is 1. Okay, and it equals 1 plus R, and that would be times 1 as well, but that's just 1 plus R. Okay, now the next thing you're going to do is you're going to enter this part of the formula into your calculator and get a number. So do that and then check your answer with my work. So I got 1.06183 or so. And now we just need to get R alone by subtracting 1. So our final answer is 0.06183 equals R. And our simple interest rate, I'm just going to change this into a percentage by moving the decimal 2 places to the right. It's 6.183%. And that's our final answer. That's the annual percentage yield. The simple interest rate that will get you the same amount as your compound interest. Okay, so make sure you let me know if you have questions about anything in these videos, and I will see you soon.